As Cobb Vanth watched Boba Fett walk away carrying the Mandalorian armor he peeled from Jodo Kast, he says to himself, for a man who has no allegiances, he sure holds that armor in high regard. There are moments in a being's life where he has to wonder, what have I done? Have I went too far for fame? This is exactly what was going through Jodo Kast's mind as he dangles by his wrist in that dark, hot jail cell in Mos Pelgo. He put everything into being someone he wasn't, and now he was paying for it. Several days went by until the real Boba Fett returned to Mos Pelgo. But when he finally did, it was time to decide the fate of Jodo Kast. Today on Star Wars Fanatic. Jodo could hear two voices distinctly talking outside the tiny jailhouse. His consciousness was still wavering from the hit on the head he took while aiming at the marshal. This job was going to be his big break. This job was going to set him for life financially. The Red Key Raiders were paying a fortune for this one, which meant they stand to make substantially more when the marshal was dealt with. But this is no longer the case. The only thing he could think was how to survive this. He knew Boba Fett was ruthless, and he had stolen his identity. But sometimes stories are larger than life, and that's what he was hoping for. He then thought, if Boba Fett wanted me dead, I'd probably already be gone. Outside the jail cell, Cobb tells Boba, I can't keep him in there forever. We barely have the means to take care of the productive folks of our town as it is. Boba returns, so what do you suggest? Vanth replies, the way I see it, there are only two choices. The first, we kill him. Boba looked surprised. The second, we let him go. Boba looked even more surprised. We cannot just let him go. He killed a Mandalorian, and more importantly, just then, the ground began to shake violently. The sand opened up to a mouth larger than that of the Sarlacc Boba had been in just a couple years prior. Both backed up against the wall at the top of the jailhouse stoop and watched. 1 minute, two citizens were unloading a speeder. The next, they were gone, along with the speeder, and there was no sign of the crate dragon anymore. This was the norm in Mos Pelgo. Boba turned to Vanth. You're going to need that armor a bit longer. Vanth nodded. Jodo was jolted from his trauma-induced slumber by the rumbling ground and screams of the people outside. In his line of work, he had seen and heard just about everything, and he had heard about the crate dragon. He hoped it had swallowed Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth, but he heard them talking again. Couldn't get that lucky, could I? He didn't think it would end like this, not in a million standard years. He knew his luck would run out eventually, but he thought he would run into Dengar or Zuckuss or worse, Bosk. He had just hoped to retire before that happened. The door swung open, and Vanth and Fett entered the jail, both locking eyes with the impostor. What is your name? Your real name, said Boba Fett with a stern look. It had been so long since he said it out loud that it left a funny taste in his mouth. Jodo Kast. What are you going to do with me? Vanth replies as he opens the cell. Again, you ask too many questions. Then he places a collar around the prisoner's neck. If you tamper with it, it will inject poison into your jugular. If you run away, it will inject poison into your jugular. If you so much as breathe wrong, don't tell me, it will inject poison into my jugular. I get it. Then Boba steps in. You are in no position to be smart. Cobb presses a button on a panel outside the cell, and the prisoner drops to the floor. What are you going to do with me? Boba answers, you will not die today, but you are going to be useful to me. Boba Fett understood the implications of Jodo impersonating him. There was no other Boba Fett, but seeing that this imposter lived for so long while impersonating him was very impressive. He must have some skill to pull that off. I have plans for you. If you play along, you just might live through this. Then Boba pulls Jodo up by the shirt collar and walks him briskly outside. He tells Vanth, I will take care of this Mynock. I will be back for my armor. Take care of that dragon. Vanth nods in agreement. Boba Fett wasn't one to suffer fools, but this foolish boy has a purpose. I am going to teach you about honor. Then you are going on a mission. If you survive, your payment is your life." Boba then led him into the desert. It wasn't a long walk to the Slave One, and when they arrived, Boba shackled Jodo to a bench behind the cockpit. Boba turned his captain's seat to face his prisoner. "The only way you get out of these shackles is when you have an understanding. You belong to me. You know who I am, or you would not have stolen my identity. You know I will find you if you run. And you know I will kill you if you try anything. Do you understand?" Jodo looked worried. "I understand." Boba then closed the rear hatch with a push of a button and got out of his chair. "You're decent, but you're sloppy. I got the drop on you easily. I could hear you breathing across the dune sea. I will teach you, and you will learn." Jodo looked to Boba's right at his cane. Boba smiled. "Try me, boy." Jodo turned his gaze to some blinking lights in front of him. "What do you need from me?" the boy murmured. Boba answered, "You're going to help me take someone down. Someone more useless than you. A slave trader. But first, you need training. First lesson, I talk, you listen." Boba then got back into the cockpit, fired up the Slave One's engines, and flew at a low profile. Fast, but cautious. The humming of the engines, the Slave One had a distinct sound, an intimidating sound. Jodo could imagine being followed by the ship and how terrifying that must be. He had only heard the stories and seen the holo recordings of Boba Fett, but now he sees, this guy is for real. Impersonating him may have been the worst thing that Jodo had ever done, but he was willing to see how this turned out. If he ended up dead, then he had a good run. But if he stood to learn a thing or two from the great Boba Fett, then that would be amazing. Boba set the Slave One down about a kilometer from the Tusken village he had been staying. As they approached the village on foot, Jodo Kast got nervous. "You tricked me. You're going to turn me over to these animals." Boba snaps, "Watch your tongue, boy. These Tuskens took care of me, and they will do the same for you, as long as you show them respect." Jodo seemed to calm down for the moment. Boba pointed to a hut and told his impersonator, "You are there. Remember, if you run, I will find you." Jodo nodded in agreement. To be continued. Okay, so that's part 2 of the Boba and Jodo Kast bit I have been working on. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I love hearing from all of you and interacting with you. I'm enjoying writing these little stories, very much so, and I plan to do about probably 2 to 3 more of this arc. It's helping me pass time before the book of Boba Fett comes out. But once it does, I'm sure I'll have all new theories and speculations at that time, and maybe even some more cool stories. I would like to take the moment to thank my channel members, and a huge shout out to Liverpool Nut and Colt. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And if you're new to the channel or just haven't done so yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date on my Boba Fett fanfictions and general Star Wars discussions. Hit the thumbs up as well to show your love for what I do here, and share the video with your friends. Let's see if we can get this one over 1,000 views. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.